Are you a morning person, or do you do your best work at night when everyone else is asleep? Do you find it hard to concentrate in the summer when all you can think about is that upcoming holiday trip? Is there really a better time to come up with ideas that lead to innovations? I'll be right back.
This is the Killer Innovations Podcast with Phil McKinney. Keep in mind that the information and opinions expressed in this podcast are Phil's, and Phil's alone, and they don't necessarily reflect those of his past, current, or future employers. Now, here's Phil McKinney.
When is the best time to innovate? Now, this is a question I never anticipated I'd be asked when I started the podcast 4 years ago. And with the current market turmoil, it's a question that I'm getting more and more often. For some reason, and I'm not sure why, there's a belief that there are cycles, almost like biorhythms, in effect that you stop and start based on your mood, or external or internal conditions, or whether or not you feel like it when coming up with ideas or working on innovations. Now, the quick answer to the question is there a best time to innovate? Yes, there is a best time. It's 24/7. It's like writers. There's lots of writers out there, or people who claim to be writers. But if you ever talk to somebody and they say they're a writer, ask them about when is their optimal time to write. Now, if you come across a writer who says they have to wait till the mood hits, then you're talking to a writer who is not writing. Same goes for innovations. If you are the one of those people that's waiting for the mood to hit you, waiting for that one idea to pop up and stare you right in the face, then you are a hobbyist. You're really not an innovator. It's not about mood. It's not about getting that thing that just pops up in front of you and you just know it's the right thing. Innovating is hard work. Like any other skill or any other kind of activity. You're not in a position where you wait till you get the mood before you show up at the office. The same occurs when you are an innovator. You show up each and every day. The same applies for organizations. Does your organization stop and start based on outside influences, such as competitors, which is probably one of the most common initiatives or one of the common catalysts for organizations to start innovating or building innovation teams or appointing an executive to be in charge of innovation? Because some competitors come out with a better product or a better service or is constantly beating you to market. So there's a reaction that says, oh my God, competitors are doing something, let's start doing innovation. The other is economic trends. Are there things happening in your industry that are going to drive you to have to do something else? Is it driven by quarterly results? Or the worst of all worst is management just came back from an innovation seminar, and now innovation is going to be the new thing for this month. Lots of organizations get caught in this start and stop. Some fad, some initiative that happens, whether it be competitors or the current quarterly results, the challenges in the economy, whatever it is. The real question is does the organization have the wherewithal to stick with it? Or is it just one of these one-time things that are going to get driven and the results are going to show for it? If your organization is kind of in this start and stop mode, then your organization is treating innovation as a hobby. It's not serious. It may be because the CEO wants to be able to stand up in front of the board of directors and say, yes, we're doing these great innovations. Or you want to be able to stand up to the press and the analyst and talk about your innovation process. Or you simply just want to be able to put it in the annual report. Get serious. You can't fake this. This is not something that you can stand up and just simply throw a couple PowerPoint slides and get everybody satisfied. You cannot fake this because the end result is, what are you delivering? What's going out on the street? What's something that you came up with that turned into a product or a service that became a big win? It's not about just sitting around and having a notebook full of ideas. It's also about translating those. Innovation is a 24/7 effort. Now, in my case, I'm managing an innovation pipeline that is 3 to 7 years in length, which means I've got projects that are somewhere in the pipeline that will take 3 years from the time they start until they actually result in commercially viable products sitting out there in the marketplace. 3 to 7 years. Now, that puts a unique strain on any organization. Now, mine's a unique pipeline, 3 to 7. Some people may have an innovation pipeline that's shorter. Some may have an innovation pipeline that is longer. The reality is that the start-stop approach for an organization will result in gaps and holes in the pipeline. If you all of a sudden have your pipeline going and then all of a sudden you stop, there's nothing new coming in the pipeline. That means you got a gap for however long you've stopped. Instead, the pipeline must be continuously fed. It needs new ideas. It's like a monster. Once you start the process, you got to feed the monster. And what you find is early on, ideas come from internal, but eventually you have to get outside the four walls of your organization and go out into the world and find those ideas, bring them in, get those into the pipeline. You also need to prune the pipeline. You need to be brutally honest when evaluating to remove items that are no longer a fit. And a 3 to 7 year pipeline, in my case, things change, markets change, customers change. So therefore, you have to be willing to eject out of things out of the pipeline that are not going to be a fit because they just take up resources. And then you also need to, in the pipeline, read validation. You need to make adjustments. If market condition changes, are the assumptions you started with still the same? Managing the pipeline, though, is a continuous 24/7 activity. Again, if you do a start-stop based on the quarterly results aren't going to look so great, we got to hold up. Guess what? You now injected a pause in the innovation pipeline. Then all of a sudden you say, oh, we need to be doing more innovation, and you restart the pipeline. You're going to have that gap, and it's very hard to fill those gaps. You need to be doing it 24/7. So how do you ensure the strength of the pipeline? How do you keep the pipeline strong and going, even when outside influences are trying to get you off track? One is by innovating every day. Great writers sit down every day and punch out their writing. They set the objective of doing so many pages per day. Whether they feel like it or not, whether they're sick, they got a cold, whether they got other interesting more things that they would like to be off doing, they sit down, they do their writing, they get through their number of pages per day before they call it a day. As an innovator, you need to do the same thing. Whether you're innovating for yourself or you are generating innovations for your organization. And this applies whether you have a formal responsibility for driving innovation within your organization or you are simply a member of an organization where you can come up with ideas that can help make your organization better. And in organizations to be successful, no matter what's happening in the rest of the world, they also need to innovate every day. The sign of leadership from management is to recognize and set priorities, not to get caught up in making quarterly random decisions, but to set objectives. And if innovation is truly important to the organization, then leaders will set that as an objective and then do everything within their power to protect it. So it's about innovating every day, whether it's you as an individual or as an organization. You need to drive it every day. It's not something you can take your foot off the gas pedal. So, how do you do this? For you as an individual, set yourself a daily idea quota. Now, start small. I would suggest something in 2 to 5 ideas for yourself to come up with each day. Keep your idea notebook handy, or you can use some of the online or web tools, or use your laptop to capture it, or record them onto your cell phone. Keep something handy with you that you can capture the ideas. Now again, 2 to 5 ideas every day. Don't filter, just capture. If you're having difficulty coming up with those ideas, then use one of the killer questions, such as what do the customers don't like about my product, or what do customers not like about the purchasing of my product, or what assumptions do I have about my industry, and what if the opposite were true? So give yourself a killer question for every day and walk through and come up with 2 to 5 good ideas. Set aside your time. Don't say, okay, I'm going to do 2 today and then walk around and hope you have 2 by the end of the day. Set aside your time, whether it's in the morning or at night, but set yourself some time. Set yourself some, quiet place and do this religiously each and every day. Just like writers, the great writers go out there and they punch out the number of pages every day. Great innovators sit down, allocate the time, commit the resource, and do their quota each and every day. Now try to capture not just the idea, but also what triggered the idea. What was the inspiration? Now in some cases, you may sit down and let's say you're a morning person. I'm more of a morning person. So I'll sit down, I'll work through, come up with my 2 to 5 ideas. And what amazes me is then throughout the day, I'm so tuned in on those 2 to 5 ideas, I inherently will come across reinforcement, something I get into an email or a conversation that I'm having, or I'm out and about, in the retail stores where customers would be buying my products, and I see something that reinforces the idea that I was thinking about in that day. Whipping out my cell phone, take that picture, add it to that inspiration. Keep those in mind, because what I find is, again, this is kind of just something that has reinforced itself over and over again, is when I'm really deep working on ideas, invariably throughout the rest of that day, I'm going to come across a number of things that reinforce the ideas that I came up with. Find those inspirations, capture those inspirations so that you have them. Now next, what I would do then is set aside a time, maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, to go back through your ideas, rank them in priority order, and then keep that list so you therefore know the best ideas that you're capturing. The issue here is during the day, each and every day, you may not come up with a killer idea every one, but you're going to find that you're going to start building on ideas. They're coming up with ideas that are stronger. And what I would suggest again is every week, maybe every 2 weeks, sit down, set aside a specific time, go through and do the prioritization just as we describe here in the podcast by asking the 5 key questions, and therefore then constantly be filtering and come up with your best ideas. The benefit here is that you now have an entire library of really, really great ideas. Some of those may be so exciting that you want to work on them right away, or you want to get management teams on them, or you want to go out and raise money to start your own company. That's great. Other cases is you're building up a library, and what you'll find then is as you go through days, months, years, you'll come across other ideas that then when matched up to that, trigger the right time. Now's the time to go do that idea. Maybe it was a little bit before the time. Maybe there was other things that were needed before that idea could become a reality. The key here is to constantly filter your ideas, and therefore you know the prioritized ideas, the ones that you think would have the biggest impact, and keep that list and constantly filtering it. By constantly going back and refiltering it, you're also refreshing your brain, you're refreshing your mind on what are those ideas that are kind of that top 10 list that's in your notebooks, such that you can go back, find those, pull those forward when the right conditions exist, and therefore be farther ahead than anybody else in their ability to execute. And I can't reinforce this enough. Just like exercising, you need to do this every day. For you personally, it will improve your skill in being able to come up with ideas. You'll build your own confidence in the ability to come up with ideas. You'll get viewed by other people as always being on. What I find is after I spent my morning coming up with the ideas, I'm energized, my brain is engaged, the creativity juices are flowing, and I can actually flow that through to the normal day-to-day activities that I have to work on. Also, just as important in today's world, you will be identified as a key individual to your organization. You'll be identified as somebody who constantly has those new ideas, those very creative insights, something that management hasn't even considered. And if you are constantly showing an ability to flow those ideas day in, day out on a continuing basis, you will clearly be identified as a key individual and therefore become critical to your organization. For your organization, it's about building and maintaining a robust innovation pipeline. Just like exercising for an individual, organizations need to exercise, and therefore constantly staying on top of what is in the pipeline, and is the pipeline constantly getting fed with new ideas, or is it simply just the one-off ideas that you get once every 6 months? It's about keeping the innovation pipeline in your organization continually filled. Now, the one insight with regards to organizations is that if you have a robust process, a methodology, you're focused on creating those innovations every day, keeping that robust pipeline, most likely your competitors are not doing it. It's a relatively small percentage of organizations that have a robust focus on innovation and who are properly managing the process and who are continuously looking to get those ideas into the pipeline. Your competitors most likely are not doing it, so you win if you do it right. So, hopefully now I've energized you to go off and do this on a daily basis. However, do I need to create a Weight Watchers-like process for Killer Innovation listeners, for you? Rather than coming together and confessing that you fell off your diet and then getting up on the scale in front of everybody to show that you gained 2 pounds like you do in Weight Watchers, do I need to get all of you together, stand up, and share how well you've done against your daily idea quota? Hopefully not. But if I find that you've been slacking off, I just might. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Keep in touch. There are now even more ways for us to stay connected. You can find me on Twitter. Twitter ID is just Phil McKinney, all one word. Also, feel free to join over on Facebook and LinkedIn. There are groups on both of those sites now for the Killer Innovation listeners. If you want to connect with me directly on Facebook or LinkedIn, send me an invite to podcast@killerinnovations.com. And please let me know that you are a listener. I get lots of invites, and unless I know specifically that you're a listener to the podcast, more than likely I decline those invites. Also, as a heads up, the Killer Innovation CD is about done. Yes, I know, it's been about 6 to 9 months working on this. The audio is about 99% done. Everything is getting set up so that you can order the CDs such that you have content that you can share with your management teams on basically the background on what is innovation, what's a better way to do these innovations, tools, tricks, methodologies, and what management teams should consider if they truly want to commit to an innovation culture within your organization. So stay tuned. Also, you can stay up to date on the latest thinking and what's driving kind of the innovation activities going on around the world. Visit philmckinney.com and you can read the blog there. Also, post your comments on today's show. Share your methods and tricks. What is it you do to come up with ideas each and every day? So go over to killerinnovations.com and post your comments on today's show. Now remember, 2 to 5 ideas every day. Don't hesitate. Start right now. We'll talk to you soon to see how you're doing. Bye-bye.